I'm Nick Filardi.
I'm Jason Thielbar.
Welcome to the world's second finest podcast. Today, we're talking about Batbooks, which came out July 1996. Amazon affiliate links are below if you need to scoop up any of these Batbooks. But as always, visit your local comic shop. And this video is on youtube.com/Nickfil. A little bit of art sprinkled in so you can see what we're talking about, because comics are a visual medium. Jason, this episode is cursed.
Delicious, delicious curse.
We have recorded this episode twice now, attempted to record this episode twice now.
Yeah.
This is the third time, and if these books weren't in a sequential order, I would have abandoned this episode and just moved on.
Well, but then we would have had a terrible secret, though. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe we should have a terrible secret. See, this is probably what the curse was trying to drive us to do, so we could have a terrible secret to make us more interesting.
Do you think more successful podcasts than us, do you think 99% Invisible has a terrible secret? Is it in that 1%?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That 1%, it'll shock you.
Oh, yeah. And it's covered up by Roman Mars's dulcet tones, you know, that soothing voice of his. It just lulls you into a false sense of security.
We are talking about the second half of Batman Legacy. And because of that, the order of the books is shuffled around a little bit. We're first talking about Shadow of the Bat 54. Jason, you've told me about Shadow of the Bat 54 once already. Can you please tell me again?
Oh, yes, I can. Shadow of the Bat number 54, The Power of the Pix, Legacy, Part 4. No, wait, excuse me. It was The Power of the Pix, Legacy, Part 4. Alan Grant. Alan Grant is your writer. Dave Taylor is your penciler. Stan Woach is your inker. Pamela Rambo is your colors. Android Images holding down those color separations. Bill Oakley is your letterer. Carl Critchlow doing some awesome cover painting. Jordan B. Gorfunkel, associate editor, and Dennis O'Neill is your big guy editor. On a rain-soaked bleak, is there any other kind, so come visit Scotland. On a rain-soaked Scottish hillside, we are given a history lesson of the Scottish peoples. We get the skinny on why they're called Picts. It's like a Roman name for the painted ones, because, they painted their faces, and something about unique symbol stones that are kind of like an acupuncture for Earth, which I'm sorry, even if it's like a needle going into the Earth, I'm not trusting a Scottish man or a Scottish person of any stripe to. You wouldn't
trust a Scottish acupuncturist?
No.
Jason, you walk into an acupuncture place, right? They're playing some Chinese music. They got a whole vibe going. And then Angus McDuffel comes out. I don't know why he's named that. That was the Scottish name that my brain was like, hey, here you go. This will be fine.
Yeah, standard Scottish name, Angus McDuffel.
Angus McDuffel comes back from behind the room, and he's like, all right, we're ready for you. Get on the table. Was I attempting a Scottish accent? I don't even know.
I don't know. And listen, to be clear, it's not like any particular reason, but I just wouldn't trust a Scotsman with like that particular thing. I do love the Scottish people and their accents. They're great. Fashion sense, awesome. But acupuncture, I don't know. But anyway, there's a whole lot of Scottish history being told to a group of tourists that are being led through a museum exhibit. And Bruce Wayne is slumming it with these regular folks. But he hangs back just some more after the tour is over to ask some more questions from the tour guide. And, has there been any interest in these symbol stones? Anyone maybe looking to buy them? And she's like, well, of course, a brash American and a big Scotsman who said he'd be back. Well, speaking of big Scotsmen, there are some Braveheart looking motherfuckers marching through an alley past some confused old tourists. And they seem pretty, okay with it. They march up to the security guard, knock him out while Batman does his Batman thing and surveils from the shadows. Shadows surveilling. These Braveheart reenactors are rummaging through the crates inside the museum when, holy hell, it's a boogeyman. Or so they think, but no, it's Batman. And he makes super short work out of all of them, just one punch each. Their stats are like way, way low. Like their AC class is just, it's
he's
they have commoner
beating up
stats.
He's beating up Scottish accountants at this point.
Yeah, they have commoner stats. It's just commoner stats. And Batman's like, what the hell are you doing here? And they say they're taking back the stone, like the Goonies taking back a wish. Suddenly, Bats hears a click, and then bullets fill the room. He shoves down the would-be picked purloiners down on the ground, and he batarangs the gunmen and launches his way through the door like a convict at a judge. Yes, I'm keeping that line.
It's Jason. It was already sketchy to reference the man who lunged at the judge like a week ago when we recorded this podcast for the second time. And now it's even worse, where we've gotten further from the anecdote and there's going to be another week before this comes out. No one knows what we're talking about.
Oh, I haven't even begun to date myself. All right. There's going to be some Charlie bit my finger somewhere in here. I'm just talking some classic memes. I'm going to shoehorn keyboard cat in there somewhere. Like, just you wait. Just you wait. Now, all these goons shooting, they're obviously Raish's guys, and there's a lot of them. And Batman seems to be kind of getting overwhelmed, and the Braveheart guys, because they're brave of heart, decide that Batman needs some help. Now, while they're all distracted with the melee, Raish's other men find the vials of the virus that were hidden in the museum artifacts. That's why these criminals are there. And vials of the virus. It's just, use it as a vocal warm-up, everybody. After taking down the rest of the goons, Batman realizes that the others got their hands on the 2 flasks of the virus, chasing them down the charming cobblestone streets. One of the goons makes his way down an old alley staircase. Batman, ever resourceful and clearly harboring dreams of competing in the X Games, swiftly grabs a sandwich board advertising haggis, and Tony Hawk Pro Skates grinds his way down the stairs. And using
he should have kickflipped at the end.
Oh,
if I was drawing this Batman book, he would have kickflipped at the end.
I would have just had him go full Christ air, honestly.
Yeah.
Full Christ air, dude.
Just a swimming pool bowl at the end of the staircase for no reason.
Yeah, and points above his head. Editor asking, what are you putting that for? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Necessary.
I'll send you a Dreamcast. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's okay. And so, using some sick flips, he catches up with the goon and catches the virus in his hand, and he tries to interrogate this goon, but he's, Ra's al Ghul's guy, so he chomps down on a poisoned tooth before he can get any info out of him, which, kind of had to expect that. Batman, now buddy with the Pix crew, is in their van chasing after the remaining goons and the remaining virus vial. He gets the lowdown on who these guys are and why they wanted that stone. Now, they ain't criminals, not usually, really. Just regular guys who want that stone back so luck can return to their family. It was sold in desperate times. And then they catch up to the other goons who had escaped on a motorcycle. Batman tells the guy driving to floor it and calmly opens the door of this speeding van and flies into the motorcycle, just jumps straight into them like stage dives, much to the shock of these just regular guy cosplayers. One goon tries to hold Batman down after the tackle, while the other's about to throw this virus into the water supply below. He gets some help from his new friends to get loose, dives for the goon as he drops the vial and bites down on his own poisoned tooth. Batman catches the vial in midair, diving off the cliff, and stuffs it into his belt and hopes to cushion the impact so as not to break its deadly contents. Of course, he succeeds. I mean, this is Batman. While his new friends fish him out of the drink, he tells him that he owes them all. Well, can he help get the stone back, maybe? But Batman doesn't steal. And they're like, hey, we're not thieves. We aren't going to steal it. We wanted to pay to have it back. There's been a blight on our land ever since, one of the main guys' dads sold it. Like, well, Batman is a Batman of his word. and he helps those Scottish suns get the stone back into its rightful place, and the sun finally shines down on their land once more. Now, after a post-caper shower, Bruce catches up with Tim on how things went in Paris. Tim gives a trademark smartass remark that Bruce doesn't find funny, but told him things are okay there. Oracle did find one more airline ticket that was headed to Calcutta. Looks like that's where Brucey Boy is headed next. Next issue of Shadow, we're getting some Poison Ivy.
Oh.
Nick, what'd you think of Shadow of the Bat 54?
It was very silly. I enjoyed it a lot. Batman surfing the sandwich board was excellent. Batman on the phone wearing a towel made me think of The Simpsons. You'll have to speak up. I'm wearing a towel. Not only that, but Robin being like, oh yeah, Paris was totally fine. Meanwhile, like, a lot of people died and there was a hail of gunfire in the Louvre. And he's like, totally buy the book, Batman. Don't worry about it. And definitely don't Google anything or look into this at all.
All went according to plan. I'm Tim Drake. I'm 16 years old. I am not traumatized by any of this. I'm totally fine. Fine.
So yeah, poor Tim Drake. He heard a man be crushed in a printing press. I still am like, this is so long ago in the podcast at this point, but I still cannot get over the idea of Tim Drake hanging out at this printing press and then a goon falls in it and is crushed to death. And he has to hear what that sounds like for the rest of his life. Well, that's besides the point, though.
Yeah.
Another great moment. Batman driving a van full of dudes that's like, they're painters, I guess. It's a painting van. They have all these supplies in there.
Yeah,
so
one
it's
of them's like a professor
van
or something, or an accountant. I don't know. Like, yeah, they're just regular people.
So Batman's sitting there in his full Batman gear with like these three other guys just driving a work van trying to catch up to this motorcycle. And the image is just very funny to me. It's just, it's shot like it's drawn like such a frank expression of the moment that I'm just like, man, this is perfect. This is good comics.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's played out very much by now because it's so popular, but it's just like, you know, that great gag of just like Deadpool in his full Deadpool suit in a cab.
Yeah,
you know?
Right. Exactly. But it works. Deadpool's jokey. So it's like, oh, I kind of assumed we would have some jokes, but like when it's very serious Batman driving the van and then he's like, take the wheel and floor it. And as he gets out of the moving van, it's like the guy sitting there is just like, oh my God, what did I get into with this freaking lunatic over here?
Yeah. It's like that joke of people who grew up in like likely like abusive or at least like crazy like families, like tell a joking story and then like the rest of their friends are horrified and like that's not funny. Like, yeah. And Batman's like, yeah, I'm just gonna jump out of this speeding van. What?
He's like, I do this 6 times a day. This is totally normal. Yeah,
the Frank Grimes thing. You've been to space? What? You've never been? Just very casually, like you've never jumped out of a speeding.
You've never jumped out of a moving van?
Yeah, so you can tackle a guy on a speeding motorcycle? Like, come on.
Who's carrying a deadly virus before he bites his tooth of poison?
Yeah.
You've never been in that situation?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like we brought up when they first, when it was revealed that, you know, that obviously that Raish was behind this and like Tim was like, oh man, he's one of the big guys. You know, it's like, okay, we get like a little bit of someone being impressed with how insane this world is.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I would have liked more of that, to be honest. I think we've said that before, but yeah.
And I will say, honestly, just like up front, because like, you know, because you did mention that like this is the second time or third time, I guess. Yeah, second time we're actually recording it. Third time we're attempting to record it.
Yes.
But I even mentioned last time, and it still hasn't changed. Most of this shit just slid right off my brain.
You're like, it's all new to you every time we record. Jason, The rest of the podcast is just going to be a fucking Groundhog Day, just over and over.
Yeah, I'm not going to notice it. Not going to notice it.
We should jump into Batman 534.
Yeah, let's do it.
Batman 534 is part 5 of Batman Legacy. 534 is written by Doug Munch, with art by the legendary Jim Aparo and the legendary Bill Sienkiewicz on inks. Colors by Lee Larridge, Seps by Android Images, Todd Klein on letters, edited by Denny O'Neil with Jordan B. Gorfunkel as associate editor. The cover is drawn by our regular artist Kelly Jones. The cover is Batman, cloaked in the darkness of his cape, flying overhead, a person in a burqa about to murder a child with a knife. This is, quote, a wound on the heart of heaven, unquote.
I love the pulpy titles. Give me all the pulpy titles.
This particular title just feels like an Evangelion title to me. A wound on the heart of heaven. Like, yes, let's go.
Yeah. Something you sing in a fucking opera.
Yeah. Batman, like an American abroad for the first time, explains to us over the course of 3 pages that Calcutta has a lot of people in it, so it's dirty, poor, and crowded. But it's also inspiring to see people hope against something so ugly and desperate. American billionaire Bruce Wayne, everyone.
Glad he can find a silver lining there, man.
Oracle sends Batman to the Temple of Kali, where he's to meet a mystery contact to help him find the race virus. Batman meets up with a street urchin child who isn't his contact, but insists that he is brave enough to be. Eventually, Lady Shiva. Okay, we're talking about Hindu stuff in this episode, in this book. And I always want to say Lady Shiva, but maybe it's Lady Shiva. I
honestly think it's Shiva because that's people's name are named Shiva, and Shiva is in my mind. Whenever I hear Shiva, that's I think that's a Jewish thing where you sit Shiva. It's like after someone dies, you're supposed to stay with the body for and like you know. I don't know Hindi though, so like I've just heard people when it's a name, I've just heard it's pronounced Shiva.
I'm gonna try to stick to. Oh God, I've already forgotten. Now I'm paralyzed.
Shiva.
I'm gonna stick to Shiva.
Yeah, I think Shiva is probably
okay. Lady Shiva shows up. We last saw her when she was retraining Bruce to be Batman after his back was broken. It was a sick issue where she's like training him, and then she's also messing with a bunch of like this clan of ninjas to come after Bruce, just to like fuck with him and in the training. And he's like fighting them in the middle of like a busy highway. It freaking ruled. That issue was great.
Yeah, and that's his normal life, not hanging out with a bunch of house painters and college professors.
Yeah, that's his normal life. Monday to Friday, my dude.
Yeah, ninjas, just randomly ninjas.
They make their way to the river, but not after fighting some goons, because this is an action book and we're halfway through it now, so they fight. Batman and Lady Shiva? I've already forgotten. Batman and Lady Shiva are number 1 and number 2 of the best fighters in the world, so not great for the goons this time around.
No.
Batman takes a ring off of one of the unconscious goons and gives it to the kid that he met so that he can go get lunch. Shiva says, "You can't feed them all." And Batman's like, "I can feed this one. Mind your business."
Back off, lady.
Now, you think you're listening to a Batman podcast, but for the next couple of moments, I'm going to shift gears into I'm a relapsed Catholic from Connecticut who has access to Wikipedia's sicko mode.
Yes.
They find the festival of Druga, which is a real Hindu festival I Wikipedia'd called Druga Puja, which commemorates the victory of the goddess Druga over the shape-shifting demon Mahisashura. Got there, kind of.
Yeah,
I hope right. I'm trying to be respectful. I'm just borderline illiterate. When the statues hit the river, it signifies Druga returning to the cosmos with Shiva in victory and over this demon. And then gifts and sweets are exchanged. And this is often compared to like the analog for Christianity would be Christmas, because it's like, oh, they pushed all these statues. The people make all these statues out of like clay and straw, and then they push them into the river, signifying the return to the cosmos and victory. It's the 10th day of the celebration, the last day. And then afterwards, they exchange gifts and sweets and stuff like that. There's a lot of different symbolism through the 10 days of this festival.
Just real quick, I literally just learned this year that the Christmas song "Partridge in a Pear Tree," I had no idea that every single like line of that is referencing a bird. Every single one of them is supposed to be a bird. Yeah, like 12 Maids of Milking, like all of that are like nicknames for birds. They're all birds. So essentially you're trying to give your love like 64 birds.
Jason, if anybody gave me 64 birds, I'd have a lot of birds.
Yeah. I like how you're like, I don't know how I'd feel about that. Might be excited, might not sure.
Yeah.
Not sure
I'm
until
really
I
middle of the road, that thing. I'd have a lot of birds.
Yeah, I'd have to know. I'd have to get a lot of birds to know how I'd feel about it.
I can't imagine emotions. Jason, you receive 64 birds. You never know how you're going to react until you're in the moment.
Yeah, that's true. It's just one of those things you can't know. You just can't know.
Yeah. However, this comic insists that this festival is about, quote, causing the river to swell and flow into the sea before evaporating into the clouds, which move over the Himalayas to snow again, a circle of life and reincarnation, end quote. So the comic insists that they need to do this so that Drogo will reappear to vanquish evil again every year. I don't know which is right, if they're both right, if neither is right. But anyway, my point is this. They had a lot to work with as far as like visually, and they just decided to not do that. They decided to just have a conversation about how Calcutta's dirty. Anyway.
Yeah.
Raish put the virus in a statue. The statues go in the water. Everyone dies. That's the plan. So they start to find a statue being carried by non-native people. Batman and Shiva chase them. They fight. One of the guys pulls a gun, and the little boy from earlier, who has been following Batman after he finished his lunch, I guess, charges the gunman charges the gunman to save Batman and Shiva. The gunman easily knocks the boy down and then absolutely callously executes him. Just like shot him to death. One shot. Batman flips out, kicks the gunman's butt, dives into the river to find the statue. There's statues all over the place. There's water all over the place. There's bubbles. He's looking for the thing. It's in a wax container that's going to dissolve. So he's on the clock here, and he finds the wax container with the virus in it, picks it up, gets it out of the water. Everybody's saved. But then, the poor boy's been gunned to death in this all ages comic book. However, he's still alive somehow, gut shot, but still alive. Batman cradles his body, and Shiva's like, oh yeah, he went down a fighter. And Batman's like, no. He's a hero. As we end the book, Jason, what did you think of Batman 534?
I kind of liked it. I mean, it wasn't like, like you said, like it could have like, it seems like between like this book and the last book, it's like the first 4 pages were just so like thick with this like exposition. And then in this book, like you point out, it's just like all about Calcutta when you have this like amazing Hindu festival that has all these like awesome stories and cultural significance, like right there for you, And
we never play in that space. It's like one or 2 lines and then statues in the river, and that's it.
Yeah.
Really disappointing.
Yeah. Like there's so many other different avenues they could have done, like could have done like a better ticking clock where like, because it also seemed kind of cheap too, that like, oh, well, those are some non-native people over there that are carrying the statue. That must be the one. It's like, wouldn't it have been cooler to be like, he shows up in Calcutta and then immediately figures out, because it's this festival, that, oh shit, that's definitely where Raish is going to put the viruses in one of these statues that's going to dissolve. How do I figure out which one is which?
A little more mystery. And then like, if they could weave it into a little bit of the festival, like, married women will smear paint on some of the statues in hopes for fertility for their husbands. That's like a traditional thing that happens. And this whole festival happens every year, and it's happened so much so, like, Christmas has like ingrained itself into our culture, like whether you're religious or not, like chances are in some form or another you celebrate at least a little bit of Christmas. It's like the same kind of thing where like everybody gets together and throws a statue in the river, which, like, whether you're Hindu or you're just there, is like a fun thing to do with your community, you give gifts, and you celebrate, it would have been great to see Batman kind of like figuring out this festival and then figuring out which statue has the wax virus in it, in like via the festival, as he figures out the festival, we learn about the festival, and then it's like, oh, that helps him solve the case rather than just kind of having expedition dumps.
Like he has to like study a lot about it to find like the one statue that's like a little off, and like hope that that's like the right one, because it has something, not so appropriate about it. They
make the statues out of like found like the clay and straw in the area. So it would have been neat if he was like watching the statues go in and he's like, no. And then he sees one that looks a little off, like the clay is different or something. And he's like, oh, that's the one. And he's like a race to get down there,
Yeah. See, it's just, some stuff that they just missed.
And I don't understand how shooting a child like accomplished anything in this book. It seems so excessive. Then Batman didn't even really save like he's holding the child at the end, but I'm like, is he dead? Are we going to follow up on this? Spoiler alert. We don't ever find out if that child died.
No, you just figured he's with Batman. So he's safe,
Sure.
Like that's
sure.
Like, I don't know. I also love though how, and now I'm just thinking of this, and like, again, like I get it. I know it's comic books, but it's like, you have fucking Batman, right? And I don't care if like you're in India and you don't know who this Batman character is, but like you have this large man in a giant black suit with a cape with these pointy things on his head. It's like no one notices him just kind of casually walking through.
Right. I don't know. This, out of all of the stuff in Batman Legacy, this was probably my least favorite issue. Because we have Jim Aparo and Bill Sienkiewicz on the art chores, and like they don't really get a whole lot of stuff to draw. Like they were on one of the previous issues in the previous pod, Bat Pod, and they drew the hell out of it. It had so much momentum. It was so engaging. And then this is just like, all right, we're going to slow down and explain what Calcutta is. And I'm just like, oh, what are we doing?
They
don't have anything to draw.
They could have had a lot more like, really cool Hindu art, which like most like Hindu art is like fucking awesome. Like it's just some of the craziest, like coolest shit. Like,
alas.
Oh.
Should we jump into Detective Comics 701?
Yes, we should. Let's dip all our toes in there.
Detective Comics 701, aka Batman Legacy Part 6, written by Chuck Dixon, pencils by Graham Nolan, inks by Scott Hanna, colors by Gloria Vasquez, seps by Android Images, letters by John Costanza, edits by Scott Peterson with associate edits by Darren Vincenzo. On the cover is Bane having Batman in a chokehold, as Batman paws at Bane's face helplessly, his mask half destroyed. Though not in the credits, you'll find a Sienkiewicz signature on the cover. This is Gotham's Scourge. They know Gotham is the final target for Raish and the virus. Nightwing's staking out the stadium. Robin watches the boat show at the convention center. Huntress at the opera house. Batman watches a casino grand opening. Batman spots two guards speaking Farsi. So, open and shut case, I guess. While Batman fights his way through two guys who might have just been talking to each other.
Come on, we all know Farsi when we hear it, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, the classic phrases that I know in Farsi. Like
I don't know. Yeah, like you can't even make a half joke.
Like Batman fights his way through the casino. Robin, Huntress, and Nightwing head to the coast of Gotham to find Raish's boat now that they know where he's going to release the virus. Batman starts leaking gas in the kitchen of the casino in an effort to blow up, I guess, the entire casino. Bane shows up. They fight. Batman holds Bane off long enough for the building to explode. The flaming ruins of the dockside casino, Batman and Bane continue to fight. Bane thinks it's his place as equals with Batman and Raish. Batman counters with the fact that Bane is a servant to Raish and not an equal. That he is just an animal in need of a cage, nothing more.
Burn.
Bane is beaten and unconscious on a couple of planks of wood. The surf pulls him away from Batman, letting him escape the fight for another day in an upcoming 1997 comic, Bane of the Demon. Jason, what do you think of Detective Comics 701?
I really like this one out of all the main books. I like this one the best because it was just the most like it was drawn super well in that 90s style that like I still dig. That's like really like solid and like the action was really smooth. And I loved the tact of like Batman just being like, nah, Bane, you a bitch. Like you like nothing.
Oh, such a good moment.
Like I don't know if you know that like it's a really great reaction gif, but there's this gif of a Kobe Bryant and he's like sitting down on a bench in a game. He's all sweating. It's just a close up of his face, and he just like looks like kind of disgusted, and you can see him mouthing soft. And he's shaking his head soft. And it's like, that's all like Batman, just like shaking his head, like not even just like soft.
Yeah. Batman at this point, like Bane might have been a top tier villain when he gets all the time in the world to plan and he meticulously wears Batman down. And then after Batman's been worn down over the course of like a year, then he's like, and now I strike. And Batman's like, yo, I'm ready to go. I'm going to blow up this kitchen and I'm going to knock the shit out of you. Yeah. And Bane's like, oh shit, Batman got hands. Like,
it's like, oh shit. Like, Batman's filling the kitchen with gas. And he's just like, listen, motherfucker, I don't care if I die. You're coming with me. Like, that's how, like, this is how Batman operates. Okay.
Very, very fun issue, especially because they did not take 3 pages up front to explain what Gotham City was.
Yeah, I honestly just thought about this now. It seems like most of the books in this legacy arc up until this one were just like setups. They just seemed like half the book was a setup, or most of them were just setups, and then like this just gets to be all action.
Right. Like we're back to like what the comic should have been. Yeah. I said this. We recorded this a couple of times already. I said this before. Batman Legacy feels like a video game to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, oh, we need to go to this location and retrieve this MacGuffin. And then we got to arbitrarily go to this location to retrieve this second MacGuffin. And I was thinking about this too. I was like, there's one vial in one statue that goes in the river, right? In Calcutta.
Yeah.
And then we go to Scotland and there's 2 vials for some reason. And now we're here and we're back to, I guess, no vials. It's just Bane. Like, it just seems like there was like this weird lopsidedness to all of this stuff where it's like, oh, you guys got like 3 issues of runway and you basically only used 1.
Yeah. It seemed like they wanted to write an adventure story. With the whole globe trotting, like, and like having friends help out, like that kind of thing. But like, but like, it just seemed like, I don't know, like the whole arc, it was just someone was just like, oh, make it an adventure story, and all the other writers are like, okay, it's like they just got like a vague directive, right? Like,
it's like you said, it's an adventure comic. You're going to these places, friends show up, and like Shiva shows up in what was it, in Batman, in the regular Batman issue, and she doesn't do anything other than fight goons. Like, they don't have a moment. There's never a twist where like Lady Shiva tries to like get the vial for herself or anything. It's just like explaining what Calcutta is. Lady Shiva shows up, they fight goons, it's over. And it needs, if it's going to be an adventure comic, I really wish they read some Batman Adventures before they jumped in.
Yeah, like Lady Shiva should have been there for like a specialized reason. Like at least the regular guy Scotsman and Shadow were like
had a purpose.
They were going after the same kind of artifact that like had the vials hidden in it. So like, oh, okay, that's why we ran into the Braveheart cosplayers, like
sure.
Because of this, not just like randomly, like, like Captain Scotsman or, I don't know who
shows up just to beat up some goons.
Yeah. Like Captain Britain's there, like.
Yeah. Oh no. Captain Britain has showed up in Scotland. Oh no.
Uh-oh. There's probably some deeper history there that's offensive that we don't know about.
Let's not get into that.
Geez.
Anyway, Batman Legacy rolls on. Robin 33 is Riptide, aka Batman Legacy Part 7. Now, did you read Robin 33, by the way?
No. Even in the run up to this, I'm just like, I'm not reading.
You're like, I've had weeks and weeks to read Robin 33, and it's a hard pass.
Yeah. I heard it described. I'm like, yeah, I'm cool over here.
So we are just mopping up the book at this point. The virus has been recovered. We still need a cure for Robin, though. So here we are, because Robin's got partial clench. He's got dormant clench. He has like the clench version of the shingles virus. Like, he's had the chicken pox, but the shingles might kill him. Anyway.
Clenchels?
The clenchels?
The clench? Is that anything?
There's nothing. No, there's nothing here, Jason. Nightwing, Huntress, and Robin infiltrate Ra's al Ghul's boat. While Nightwing and Huntress do a bunch of the fighting that seems really fun in the background, we follow Robin instead, who looks for a computer so he can get Oracle to like Wi-Fi in or something and get the data off it. They end up doing that. Before Ra's can kill Nightwing and Huntress, which seems fucking rad over there, but don't worry about that because that's in the background. Before he can do that, the boat explodes. And we end with Batman being like on the dock after he fought Bane, being like, will I win next time? I don't know. LAMO. And then this book wraps up with, the data went to Oracle. So I guess Robin's saved. I don't know. We didn't really follow up with that. I guess we have Detective Comics' next Bat Pod is the last part of Legacy. I assume that's what's going to happen there. But Bullock and Montoya end this issue fishing mobsters out of the river. They've been floating downriver to Gotham from Bloodhaven. A promo for Nightwing's new book. Ooh. Continued to Nightwing #1.
Nightwing. Working on my Nightwing.
Okay, all right. Full disclosure. I bought a lot of Nightwing back in the day.
Oh, yeah. That's foundational for you.
I reread the first issue. Still fucking rips. Scott McDaniel is onto some shit. Like, especially at this time when like a lot of the figure work in comics is like very static. He is like, there's so much momentum and movement and just amazing drafting skills that are happening in that issue. Occasionally gets a little convoluted because he's like dialing it up to 11 all the fucking time. But then you're just like, I don't care. This is super fun, you know?
Yeah. It definitely has like And especially this time in comic books was like when you started seeing more and more like with Joe, I always mispronounce the man's last name, Battle Chasers.
Madrera?
Yeah. And
Joe Mad?
Yeah. And even like Humberto Ramos, like
Yep.
you start to see, this is when you started to see like a much heavier manga influence in like American artists, and like, and a lot of his especially this like this Nightwing stuff of like he's like everything going on, like that to me is just at least like picking up the vibe of like a lot of manga, is that like there's
absolutely. I actually just read some Chainsaw Man, and it has a very similar like frantic feel to it.
Yeah, totally. But also I don't know if like a lot of these guys back then who like again were like some of like the first ones at least to get sort of popular, like using that sort of style, there he seemed to have had like I don't know how much he knew it consciously, probably he did, of like, like fill up every panel. Like every panel has to be filled. And it just gives it this kind of, well, like you said, this like frantic energy. Like you're not just filling it up just with lines necessarily. Like there's this deliberate nature to the busyness of it that like doesn't seem overwhelming, but you're definitely like a sugar high. You're like kind of buzzing.
Yeah. He also, Scott McDaniel, and I realize we just talked about Robin 33 and now we're just talking about Nightwing.
Well, yeah.
But it's fine because the Robin 33 book was kind of boring. So the thing about that Nightwing book too is that, so you have this manga influence that's happening, and he's doing like these wild 5-point perspectives and stuff like that. So you have all these, at the time in the 90s, you have this culture of like, we're making a music video, like, let's attach that fisheye lens and go to town. Like we're making a skateboarding video, put that wide angle on and let's go to town. And so I feel like Scott McDaniels has that manga influence. He's influenced by like the stuff that's on TV at the time. Yeah. And then he's also drawing in bullet trails like the Matrix. It's like this perfect blend of like cool shit from the 90s.
That's a great point. I didn't really think about what because you're a certain age at that time and how much music videos, just because they're just everywhere. Like even if you don't,
they're just everywhere.
Even if you don't dedicatedly like watch MTV anymore, if you're in your like early 20s, like I'm sure he was, like, it's been a part of your life. So you flip it on every once in a while. And like, you suddenly see like, Puff Daddy on a yacht riding through an explosion. Like,
yeah. And you're like, hey, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Visually pretty cool.
Yeah. There really was a lot of just kind of like, just like a lot of everything in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Like that was just, just everything was bright. There was constant motion and action. Like
there's like, I know that at the time I felt like when people think of the 90s, they usually think of like Genkos and wallet chains and stuff like that. And that was going on too. But like, there was also a lot of like cool shit that was happening in the 90s. Visually, people were pushing the saturation level up. Like I'm thinking of McG, the director, who he was like hyper saturated, hyper stylized. Those movies do not age well anymore, personally, I think. But like, man, it was a vibe back then. Yeah. And like Scott McDaniel slots into it with Nightwing in a very like clever way that still has like a lot of draftsmanship to it. That still holds up. I'm going to keep reading Nightwing. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. I'm going to keep reading it. And
you just reminded me too, I also just immediately thought of in terms of like art and like design, and there just being like a lot of, just of everything, but also it just being really fucking cool. And the compositions were always like, or mostly like spot on, is freaking skateboard art. Like whether it was stickers or stuff actually on boards, like all the toy machine stuff that like kids just wore because it didn't matter if they skated or not. They're like, this looks cool as shit. You know?
Yeah,
like,
totally. Yeah, man. Whew,
oh,
the 90s.
I love that old toy machine logo with the two fists, and it's just all the extra fingers to
the extra fingers. Yeah, it's written on the fingers, and it's like toy machine, and the hand just keeps going.
Yeah,
so good, so good,
man.
You want to hop into Batman and Robin Adventures 11?
Yeah, Batman and Robin Adventures issue 11. Ty Templeton is your writer. Dev Madan is doing your breakdowns. Rick Burkich is finishing those breakdowns. Roberta Hughes is coloring this book. Tim Harkins, lettering. Darren Vincenzo, associate editor. Scott Peterson is the big boy editor. This is Windows to the Soul. Alfred, in full nightgown and pointy hat glory, wakes up Master Bruce in the middle of the night. He's hysterical. It's a matter of life and death. Bruce quickly grabs his bat belt and heads down to the kitchen. Yes, he sleeps next to his utility belt. Asking Alfred, what am I walking into here? Something 10 feet tall with fangs. It's this huge beast of a thing that tried to mess with Alfred as he was returning a plate to the kitchen, accosted by a monster in his own home. How dreadful, Mr. Pennyworth. Upon closer inspection of the kitchen, however, Bruce finds a knocked-over shelf and a shiny watering can that, you can see his face in. Oh, and a Stephen King novel. He deduces that old man Pennyworth must have spooked himself, all hopped up on the master of horror's lurid tales. Alfred is indignant and sure he saw something. Bruce is sure he saw something as well, just, they don't agree on what. Alfred contends that he is not a fraidy cat, and Bruce is like, sure. But what's that we see in the shadows as they march back up to the stairs to their rooms? Some menacing red glowing eyes. Back in the Batcave later on, Bruce is working on the best Batmobile ever, and I hope some 80s metal or prog rock is playing while he's doing this. While Dick is wondering...
Carry on, my wayward son.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be an interlude right here in the podcast. It's going to go on for 15 minutes.
It's very Dean working on the car and Supernatural vibe.
And Dick is wondering what he's doing up at such a late/early hour, as it's just past noontime. Oh, that coward butler of mine got too hopped up on Stephen King stories and thought he saw some kind of monster. And wait a minute. Where did Dick's sandwich go? What was that crash? Seems Dick saw something too. In the dark, some floating eyes? Is he reading some King as well? He looks like more of a Clive Barker kind of guy. I think he likes to get real weird with it. Bruce gets to use the great dad line, let's shed some light on the subject, as he shines down a work light into the Batcave, and holy shit, it's the Man-Bat. Screaming at being caught, he flies into Dick and attempts to make his way out. Bruce, the madman that he is, jumps on the back of this flying monster and wrestles him to the ground for a second before he gets kicked off and Man-Bat makes his escape. Dick tries to lasso him, but, well, Diana, he ain't. It looks like it's time for some spelunking, which is a good and funny word that should not be overused. And again, I've made that note more for myself than anybody else.
So I've told you this before, but there was a person that we used to go to high school with that I would bump into sometimes around town. And for like the year that I was back in Connecticut, and it seemed like I would always bump into her, and she'd be like, "Oh, what are you up to?" Like catch up. And I don't care for small talk, Jason. I'll be honest with you there. And so I would always try to steer the conversation towards spelunking, and I started looking up like cave facts to like have locked and loaded the next time I bumped into her in town, as all part of a bit, so that like she would come eventually. The goal was to get her to come away from conversations with me and be like, man, Nick's really into caves. And then like tell somebody else. I was hoping it would come back to me. Be like, I heard you were really into caves. And I'm like, yeah, Yeah, absolutely.
I know all these cave facts.
I have all these cave facts.
That's very much the Allen Ginsberg poem Howl. I've seen the greatest minds of my generation stark raving mad, and I saw someone make a Twitter post. I've seen the greatest minds of my generation destroyed by commitment to the bit.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that's us elder millennials. There are more people who have ruined their lives because they just...
You got to commit to the bit, Jason.
Yeah, because they just never gave up on that dream of like that their improv troupe would turn into Kids in the Hall,
We all can't be a Stephen Colbert.
No. So Batman gives Robin the skinny on what this monster is, or rather, who he is, as he's human, not just a thoughtless monster. But Batman is freaking pissed about all of these monsters. He's like, I've had enough with all of Langstrom's and the other doctors' crap. Like, this is just...
I really appreciate that we've recorded this 3 times now, and you still have not bothered to learn what the other Man-Bat's name is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's
Langstrom's the important one. It's Langstrom and the rest.
Yeah. Plus, I can say Langstrom like Wernstrom. Langstrom. So Batman's just annoyed, and he wants to take care of this. So armed with cave diving equipment and a powerful anti-mutagen, Batman's like, let's ride. Well, I mean, you didn't say it like that. It's not that corny. Anyway, making their way through the cave, Robin doesn't know where they are. Batman does, though, because of course he does, and reminds him that this is a rescue mission, okay? This Man-Bat is still a man. It's in the name. And, oh boy, do they find him. When they do, he comes crashing through the dynamic duo, yelling that he's seen a into human gun before, and they're not gonna get him. Batman's like, holy crap, it talks. Yeah, he talks. He has control over the monster. Not like with the original mutagen. He's better than human Langstrom. Better at messing up both Batman and Robin, too. Batman gets a shot off upside the head of the Man-Bat. And Man-Bat is like, hey, asshole, I only stole food. I didn't hurt anybody. You think you're better than me? And proceeds to get a few good shots on Batman until Robin sends a batarang through one of his wings. And, well, that got his attention. So he goes after Robin, the boy Wonder is shaky with his anti-mutagen gun, waiting till he gets close enough to get the shot off. But at the last second, Batman shoves the gun away. It's like, what the heck, dude? I had the shot. But Batman wants cooler heads to prevail. He's convinced of the monster's humanity when he smashed the gun while he was beating him up, and not his head. So, what should he tell Langstrom's wife? Batman turns very dramatically and said, Langstrom is dead. It's pretty heavy, dude. Robin asks Batman if he's sure it's a good idea to let this monster go. And Batman replies, he's just another frightened soul trying to find his way. You could see it in his eyes. Batman, you frickin' softy. The end. Nick, what'd you think of Batman and Robin Adventures, issue 11?
Oh, I loved this one. This was a great issue. Also, there's no more stingers. They've slowly phased out all the unique letters that are coming into the letters column. They're still doing the letters column, but it's mostly just like, hey, I like the book. And they're like, thanks, man. Thanks for the great letter. And I'm like, there's nothing here anymore.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that they have now phased out the next issue stinger. So they just showed the cover, which is Batman and Robin fighting Bane. We'll see what happens there. I guess Bane's in it. I guess.
Here's Bane, guys. Please care about Bane.
But this issue was really, really good. Man-Bat lifting up Batman, like holding him by his wrist and lifting him like a foot off the ground while he's standing there. Fucking excellent. The size of Man-Bat in these panels he's huge through this whole thing, and he should be huge. He should be gigantic. He's a creature, you know?
Yeah. They do a really good job of like of showing his size in comparison, but not just his size, like sort of like his like presence too.
Yeah,
you know?
And the way he moves through the panels and everything, he feels like a creature.
Yeah, and there's something there too that like, you know, it's really hard to pin down because you can like if you're an artist working on a book and you're like, you have Bane and you have Batman, I'm supposed to draw Bane and Batman fighting. It's like, sure, you're like, Bane is this many heads tall, Batman's this many heads tall. So like Bane is this many more heads tall than Batman is. So like already you're like, okay, they're, you know, Bane is bigger. And so like, yeah, you can draw him bigger and make sure he like kind of looks bigger, you know, in a room or whatever. But you don't, there's other things that you have to do if you really want to sell this like sort of menacing presence, you know, like
absolutely.
Of the size. Like you can't just have him be just like kind of stand next to Batman and be bigger than him. Sure. It's not dramatic, you know, and this issue did a much better job of that than the mainline Batman, which was still good, you know, to be clear, but this just like, it just sells it. It sells him as this like huge, strong as fuck monster, like you said, just like picking up Batman like it was nothing.
The other thing that I really liked is that Man-Bat is doing what Batman does to criminals, like lurking in the shadows, striking when he wants to. Like Batman's getting Batmaned, and like he is not happy about it. When he starts like putting on the splunking equipment, he's like, we're putting an end to this. Like this cannot keep happening. I really loved all the drawings with Batman who with a headlamp on, like he's like working on a car in the middle of the night or something. So good.
Yeah, and anything over the suit, like whenever Batman puts a suit on over this, like a hazmat suit on over the suit, like putting on a headlamp over the ears, like he has to get like extra big ones. Right. Those are really good call out though. I honestly never noticed that before of Man-Bat sort of doing a Batman thing and like getting the drop on him the way he usually does. Oh,
right.
Shit. Huh. So
issues better than you even thought.
Yeah. So what was your? I already know the answer, but what was your favorite books?
It's got to be the Adventures book. It's got to be Batman and Robin Adventures 11. Like it flows so well. It's so fun. Man-Bat's great in it. I love a good Man-Bat story. The twist at the end of Batman being like, this creature is a man and he is like thinking for himself and these are his choices and he hasn't hurt anyone. So like, let's just let him go kind of thing. I thought was really great. Yeah.
Cause he's just a fucked up little guy, you know?
Yeah.
And Batman understands because he's just a fucked up little guy. And sometimes he has a compassion for fucked up little guys. You know, I wonder, and maybe you would know this more than I do, because, you know, as I've stated many times before, like I just sort of like fell off with like mainstream books like a long time ago and was just sort of pick up ones here and there. But like Batman to me is always a much more interesting character when it really like shows his morality and like shows like his humanity, that he isn't just this like cold person. Right. You know, where
when
like
he,
at least every once in a while
picks and chooses to like kind of like deal out justice or deal out leniency is really interesting.
Yeah. Of like, taking a chance on like, oh, are you sure it's okay to let this guy go? It's like, well, not really, but you know, I think this time, you know, and hopefully it works out, but it's just that makes him so much more interesting rather than just like being this like the cold calculating sort of detective that just like sure has no emotions and he's all.
I also feel like this issue harkens back to the issue where Killer Croc was being pulled into the swamp by Swamp Thing, basically. Like teased into like, oh, you got to come home to the swamp. You got to come home. You got to get out of the urban environment. Like he was doing this through like plants that were coming up the drain and releasing like pheromones, LSD or whatever, like making him like trip out about the swamp, and then Croc being like, I got to get to the swamp. And then like Batman gets there and he's like, I got to bring Croc in. And Swamp Thing's like, or you could just leave him. Like, he's fine. He's just eating birds in the swamp. Like, yeah. And Batman's like, yeah, you're kind of right.
Yeah. Yeah. And also Swamp Thing was like kind of quietly probably like, hey, Batman, I'm also basically a god. So like,
right. Yeah. Like, I know you got a lot of plot armor, but I'm going to end you.
Yeah. Cause I'm one with, literally the
green.
earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it was definitely Batman and Robin Adventures 11.
It's tough. It's tough to beat these adventures books, man, especially with Kelly Jones off the docket.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and especially against I guess to be a little fair to the mainline books that like they had to pay attention to a crossover arc.
Yeah. Yeah. Which it seems like, DC's still putting together like, we've touched on a couple of crossovers by now. We've touched on the Underworld one. We didn't really get into it, but we felt the effects of it in the mainline books where he juiced up Killer Moth and Mr. Freeze. The dude in hell did that.
Yeah.
And we've done
we've
done the huge crossover of Nightfall, Night's End, Night's Quest, which is like gigantic in scope, unprecedented in any of the other like crossovers. And we've done the virus, the clench. What was it called? Batman Biohazard? I can't remember.
Yeah, that was a much shorter one though. That wasn't like a Legacy seems to,
I feel like Legacy is the same amount of books. We've just recorded this episode 3 times. Feels like it's going forever.
Also, it just feels like though too, because like you said at the end, was it at the end of Robin where Montoya and Bullock like find bodies from Bloodhaven, and then it's like next in Nightwing #1. It's like, is this all to set up a new Nightwing series? It's like, guys, you could have just put out a Nightwing series. Like,
oh man, it drives me nuts. Okay, you're touching on something that I actually have a bone to pick that I've been thinking about for a little while, and that is when I was a kid and I was reading this stuff. When I was a teenager, I would read continued in such and such book, right? And then I'd go hunt that book down, and it would be like, it'd be 22 pages and it'd be 21 pages of a regular story. And then like 3 panels of like, oh, and this other thing happened in this other book. And I'm like, this wasn't actually continued. Like there wasn't more story here. You just tricked me into picking up another book. And I feel like that kind of stuff, like that kind of like, I don't even know. I hesitate to call it like shady marketing because they're trying to juice numbers. They're a business. It's about a product, that kind of thing. But it really made me gun shy when it came to like continued in like, all it did was like, it tricked me like 1 or 2 times. And then beyond that, I was like, I'll flip through it in the store before I buy it.
Yeah, I think, I honestly think that like a lot of that was like, at least within comic books, probably like a holdover from when like they used to be a lot cheaper, Yeah. And so you didn't feel as bad trying to like, goad kids into like picking up like another like issue of like a smaller, but like, oh, I need Challengers of the Unknown to sell a bit more, but it's like, it's like,
oh 50, man, solid title.
Yeah, but it's like, it's like 50 cents a pop or whatever, so it's like you don't feel like even like back then, it's just like, oh, okay, like it's just, but when they started getting more and more expensive and suddenly it's like, I paid $3 to get. So
I could get a couple panels at the end where they mention the story I just read, Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So probably something like that. It's a little.
Sure.
It's a little, but yeah. Ooh, and
Jason,
Nick.
where can people find you? How do they find you? Why would they find you?
God, that's a good question. You know what? They can find me and we can talk about it. I'm at King of Black Acid on Twitter. Also, we're at World's Second Finest on Twitter.
I should probably post to World's Second Finest on Twitter about how we've been having cursed episodes and like I don't know what the schedule is about this coming out.
I just realized I've been such a flake about posting on the podcast account, and then that's when all our troubles started. You see?
Oh man,
I fucking cursed us.
That
Nick.
was the catalyst.
I fucking cursed us. Oh,
you were the glue holding the whole operation together, Jason.
Man. Who knew? One little Twitter account goes down. It's like that meme with the dominoes, you know? Just...
You can find me at linktree.com/Nickfil, where you can find links to my Discord, links to my YouTube. We're actually talking, you brought up the cost of comics in the regular Batbooks. Ziggy was talking about in the Discord about how he bought a bunch of books at various price points, and he was kind of like, here's kind of what I think about like all these different books at all these different price points. He mentioned that he bought one outlier, which was a Spider-Man book, comic book, regular, like floppy, 19 pages that he paid like, I think $5 for. And he was like, this was too much.
Yeah.
He's like, they got to give me full 20 for $5.
Yeah.
At least.
Oh,
so if you want to join in on the conversation over there, you're more than welcome to.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. Man, now I'm, oh, dude, now, you know, just real quick before, have you ever, you should look up because I think you would really dig it, and you can keep this in the show or not. But back in the 90s, early 2000s, there was this magazine that I fucking loved called Ray Gun. And it was just like, it was like an independent music magazine, but like its design, every issue was insane. It was like,
and it was check it out.
Deliberately insane. Like the editor in chief, the guy who ran the magazine said that like, yeah, sometimes okay, so it was common if you were reading an interview with someone in Ray Gun, like, oh, Kim Deal, cool. I love the Pixies and the Breeders. You'd be reading an interview with her, and then suddenly you'd turn the page, and like the interview questions would go from like regular font to like super tiny, just right in the middle of the page. No discernible reason whatsoever. No, or it would be like
you're trailing off and going to another room in a party or something.
Yeah. Or it would be like flipped and then like laid over like a picture that was like way too dark. So,
oh no!
It was just all this crazy shit. It was amazing. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
I got to check it out.
Yeah, Ray Gun was the shit. Ray Gun was the shit.